position.
How to sit. Lean back, lean back. Don't lean back quite so much, lean forward more. Lean forward more.
Oh dear.
More relaxed.
I can't believe I'm more relaxed.
Less relaxed.
That was alright, wasn't it?
I don't know. I'm just going to literally do what you did. You look like
Just
you've got
copy
it right.
each other. Then we look like swans.
Right, okay. So do we want to...
Get some serious content.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome to the Passion Fit Coaching Podcast. This is episode 61.
Episode 61.
Nailed it, of the Passion Fit Coaching Podcast. So I have with me today, you'll probably realise that I'm not flying solo again, and that's not Tom's voice. So I have one of our coached athletes, that is Michelle Jackson, and Michelle has just come back from the Ironman World Championships in Nice. And she's got a really, really fascinating journey, which is why I've been super keen, also known as pestering, to get to get her onto the podcast. Because actually, for me, and I put a post up pre World Championships, Michelle's one of the role models that I have. I think as society, we have a tendency to look at people who are in the spotlight. They've got a profile publicly, and we gravitate towards them as like demonstrating role model behaviours, when actually, probably deep down, and things often come out later, they aren't really role models. So this is why I was super keen to get Michelle onto the podcast, to share more about her journey, and to actually showcase what being a role model truly is. So if you could give us a little bit of insight into who you are, what you do, anything about like family life, and if you've got it, I always struggle with this, so don't panic, so I know the same as me. You've got an interesting fact about yourself.
I have got an interesting fact.
Oh!
So I'm 50, I was 50 this year. I'm a mum of 3 and recently nanny to my grandson. I'm a mechanical engineer and I've been working in aerospace for 26 years. And my interesting fact is that in 2000, I think it was about 2000, I designed and made a pressure vessel that actually flew in space.
Did it?
Fairly recently, yeah.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, the satellite crashed.
I was going to say, how did it get on?
My part was okay.
And you probably underplayed your job role a little bit there.
Maybe, because it's difficult to explain it.
Well, basically, you're the person that if something does fall out of the sky, you'll go to jail for.
If I've done something
The buck
wrong,
stops with you.
like
So you're actually, I think you referred to it one day when we were having like a post-swim debrief, as you're pretty much the big name on campus. That meetings don't start until you walk in.
It's a pretty responsible position.
Yeah, let's go for that. So how did you actually get into that then?
Oh, by chance, like everything I've done in my life. So I had my daughter really young. I was 18. I was a single parent, and I thought I really need to do something with my life. So I didn't do very well at school. So I thought I'll go back to college and I'll do maths and I'll do biology, because I'm going to be a nurse.
Right.
And then I started biology and I thought this is really boring. I'll do physics and then I'll become an engineer, because I don't know if you remember, you're probably too young. Kylie Minogue used to wear dungarees in Neighbours, because she was a car
I've seen
mechanic.
Neighbours. Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought I can be a mechanical engineer. It sounds similar, and I can wear dungarees all day.
Okay.
That's kind of.
And how many times have you worn dungarees to work?
I don't wear dungarees. Maybe on a Friday.
Maybe on a Friday.
Just
Okay. So when you left school, then what qualifications did you leave school with?
2 English GCSEs.
Okay. What were they?
2 English Cs.
2 English Cs. Okay. Then you went to college. You had your daughter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Went to college, and then started to get A levels. And then how did it kind of continue from there, really?
I was studying engineering and I was working in Topshop.
Right.
And a local company, I said to them, can I come and work for you part-time for the same money that I'm working in Topshop? And they said, yeah. So when I finished my study, I was already working in engineering. So then I worked for a really small aerospace company that was in Cheltenham. There was only 30 people in the whole company, me and someone else in engineering, and learned loads about engineering, and then moved to the company I'm at now. So
That's ace.
Yeah.
And you like it?
yeah, it's good.
You're keeping the planes flying. Just. Okay, so you said that, so you're 50 this year. How long have you been doing triathlon for then?
So I work for GE, I work for Data Propellers, it's part of GE, and in 2012 they sponsored the triathlon at the London Olympics, and they were kind of encouraging everybody in the business to get fit, do triathlon, and a few of my friends signed up for triathlon, so I did the Cheltenham Sprint triathlon, so that was 2012, and then did a few as part of a relay team, and it kind of progressed from there.
Escalated.
Yeah.
So basically you kind of sort of fell into it because of work.
Yeah.
And that was like
yeah.
the reason why you started.
I would never have, I didn't even know what triathlon was, I didn't have a clue. I hadn't done any sport since school, and even then, if I could get out of it, I would definitely have got out of it. I wasn't sporty, I was not wearing lycra.
I'm playing rounders. I'll go and stand and wait.
I used to go and find someone to smoke cigarettes. And like,
So just didn't go.
I didn't, no, I did not. I was not wearing sports clothes.
So what made you think about it then? Like, because obviously it wasn't mandatory at work for you to get involved with triathlon. So what made you think about giving the Cheltenham Sprint a go as part of
I went to watch the games, the Olympics. The triathlon, the men's triathlon race, went to watch that, and then with a friend of mine from work, and she was a swimmer, and I don't know, I just kind of got dragged along with it really. Just thought I'll give it a go. It sounds interesting, and I needed to do something for myself because obviously I had 3 kids and working full time. I didn't really have any time for me. I didn't go out or anything, so that was how I got into it.
Nice. And then from there then, so how did the first one go? So what was it like?
Oh God. The swim, I used every single stroke to do what was 10 lengths of the Lido.
Yeah.
So even probably that spiral one that we've done.
Corkscrew.
Yeah, I tried it all to survive the swim. I had a hybrid bike. The bike went okay, but I did think beforehand, how quick can people actually go on a bike? I thought, well, it'd be fine, I'll be, people can't go that quick, and I realised actually how quick people could go on the bike, and the run was alright because it was only really, really short. I think it was like 2.5k or something, so it was fine, yeah. And then you finish it and you think, oh, that was fun.
Yeah, and that's when the spiral happens.
Yeah. I think that's a healthy spiral though.
Oh yeah, well, it's definitely better than a lot of things.
But I think I think that I've had times where it's been an unhealthy spiral where you do a race and it doesn't go to plan, you sign up for another race because you just think, I need to go harder, faster, I just need to hurt more. Which I don't think is that helpful.
Validation race.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you do after the sprint triathlon then?
Then I did an open water swim because I won a wetsuit through a competition at work, and I had no intention of getting in any lakes until I won the wetsuit. And
so was it a rigged competition?
I don't know. You had to make a statement about what triathlon meant to you, I think. So yeah, I won the wetsuit anyway. So signed up for Blenheim as a team to do the swim. Not practiced in open water, and I wasn't aware that you had to pull your wetsuit all the way up.
Right.
So my legs kind of floated and I was basically, when I was swimming, I was trying to drown myself because my legs were so buoyant, but like I was just, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like putting my head in the water, so I swam breaststroke.
Yeah.
It was not a very nice experience at all, really.
So after that, what did you decide to do? Did that put you off at all?
No, because every time something doesn't go to plan, I always want to go back and try it again differently.
Right, yeah, see if you can improve.
Yeah.
So in between doing Cheltenham Sprint, because that's essentially kind of like your triathlon start point, right?
Yeah, it's a great race.
Yeah, it is ace. So between that and then going to the Blenheim as part of a relay team, had you started to think about approaching any form of training at all, or was it a case of just?
I didn't really have a lot of time,
or?
so I was training, but it was just kind of as and when. I didn't have any structure. After I did Blenheim, then I started signing up for regular sprint triathlons, and then I had sort of an outline of a plan that didn't have any structure to it, but was basically 2 bikes, 2 swims and 2 runs a week.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wouldn't get them in because of just family commitments, but that was kind of my baseline, but there was no structure to that. I mean, all of my runs would be just basically go and run. I didn't do anything kind of, long runs, or there was no real structure. Everything was in the grey zone.
You still had consistency there, essentially, with
Yeah.
doing something.
I've never struggled with motivation, really. I've always been able to, if I decide to do something, I can generally be motivated.
To go and get it done.
Yeah.
Then what came after the Blenheim swim saga?
Then I decided, I think the following year after Blenheim was my 40th year. So then I decided I was going to do a triathlon a month.
Okay.
Stupid. So I don't think I managed 12, but I do think I managed at least 10
Flipping heck.
in 2013. So I basically did 1 sprint a month.
How was that?
It was fine.
Did you quite
No,
enjoy
it was
it?
alright,
Sprint
yeah.
a month's alright, isn't it?
I think sprints are okay because they're pretty short, aren't they? And
Yeah.
yeah, I could do them okay. I could get round. I didn't. Yeah, I enjoyed them. I didn't get to the end and think, oh, that was rubbish. Just think, that's another one.
Another
I got
one.
a medal.
Yeah.
Put the medal in the box. Sign up for it.
Next month, here we go again.
Yeah.
And then what followed from that then? So you did sprint a month, essentially, and then after that point...
Then I think you start getting involved with other people, start to learn about what you're doing, and then they start to influence you, and they kind of say, oh, you should do a half Ironman, or you should do an Ironman, you should do a half marathon, you should be running 2 hours. And I think from then, I guess I still enjoyed it, but I didn't. There was positives and negatives then to my journey in triathlon. I think there was, when I was doing what I wanted to do and just not worrying about outcomes and not worrying about what other people thought, I really enjoyed it. But when I started to try and do things that other people kind of had implied I should be doing, then I think it kind of wasn't as enjoyable. I still loved training, and I loved the process of keeping fit and training, but there were elements that were negative, I'd say.
So did that change like your motivation or direction of what you were going to do next with your journey at all?
It changed how I felt about races and things. So if I did a race, and just how people kind of responded. Some people, they can say things that really they don't know where you are in your journey. They've got no right to make a comment on it, but people would make comments or ask what were your times, and you just think I didn't like all of that side of it.
So did you do anything after the year of sprint a month triathlon?
Yeah. I still carried on. I mean, I don't think I've never had a gap of triathlon since 2012. So I did the 113.
Oh yeah.
And that went pretty well because that was my first 70.3 distance, and I didn't have any expectations. So that went pretty well. But then, when you sign up for the next one, you're expecting.
Yeah, you've set a precedent for yourself, haven't you?
Yeah. And I think if you haven't got what I didn't have was any sporting background, so I didn't really understand like heart rate zones, training zones, intensity management, any of that. And even though I learnt a bit, so in 2019 I did a full distance at Bolton, and I read the Fink books.
Yeah.
And also the Triathlon Bible.
Yeah.
So I learnt a bit about it, and that race actually went pretty well, but then I had no expectations, so I didn't have that pressure on myself and that feeling of failure that you get if you're trying to do something that's outside of your capability, which is what I basically was trying to do most of the time.
And how did Bolton go?
It went really well, and I should have learnt from that if you manage your intensity right, you can finish your race, not worry about the time, but feel accomplished because you've executed it well. But I just didn't learn that for, we'll see in a minute how many years.
So 2019 was Bolton, and then what continued on from there?
After Bolton, I I got in touch with Passion Fit and did the Watt Bike sessions, and I think because I'd done Bolton, I felt like I'd sort of earned the right to join another group. Like I felt like I didn't have as much imposter syndrome as I previously had, and I thought, well, actually I've done an Ironman, so I can't be that bad. So I joined the Watt Bike sessions, did some swimming sessions, some run sessions. I did really enjoy it, but I didn't feel like I was almost good enough. I was kind of, I don't know, and that was me, that wasn't anybody else. Everybody made me feel welcome. I just didn't feel like I was good enough, and also at the time I had some kind of things going on in my personal life, and it just wasn't the right time for me to commit to Passion Fit. But I watched like from afar for years, went through lockdown, and kept watching and actually when I was training for Bolton, I watched all of the Passion Fit social media, which gave me great motivation, watching some of the girls that were doing full distance races, and so.
And what was the sort of turning point that made you think, cause it's kind of that piece around, maybe, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but that feeling of you didn't feel like you should invest in yourself and your journey at that point?
Yeah.
So what made you change that perspective then, and what made you take that step then to think, actually, do you know what, I'm going to take that next step and get involved properly?
2021, towards the end of 2021, I wasn't doing brilliantly. I was kind of at a low point, and it's the one time in all the years I've been doing triathlon that I wasn't motivated to train. And Lauren had put out one of the posts about training as part of the community on the bike sessions, and it started kind of all grey and then it changed.
Oh, I did the video, yeah.
And I remember watching it and thinking, oh my god, that grey person is me, and if I don't do something different, I'm not gonna do triathlon anymore, because I just don't want to do it half-heartedly.
And how long did it take to then get onto the virtual sessions once you saw and thought, actually that's something I could really benefit from? Like, did you find that it took a little bit of time to get onto them, or were you like, right, okay, commit and I'm on?
No, it was super easy. I think I contacted Lauren on the weekend and I was on the following week. It was just what I needed, because I think the input from the coaches on the sessions and all of the message around being able to be accomplished but not having to compare yourself against other people and the wrong kind of people that you it doesn't matter how hard you train, you're not going to win a race, or so there's no point in me comparing myself to people and making my journey negative. So I found that message really, really good, and all the behaviours. Came to a workshop and found that really interesting, and then I think probably 3 months later, February, I actually decided to sign up with Lauren
for full coaching at that point.
Yeah.
And what's been the impact of that on your journey then?
On my triathlon journey.
Your life.
I'm happier now than I've ever been in my adult life, I can honestly say. It's changed my life completely.
Am I? What have been the changes then? Like, how do you feel in comparison now, and how has being part of Passion Fit helped you with that piece?
When I joined, I didn't have any self-confidence, self-worth. I didn't have any. My overriding feeling when I went to anywhere new or was in an environment with people would be that no one would like me. That was kind of how I felt. I didn't feel that when I joined Passion Fit, but it's still there. So all of the group sessions, like group run, I struggled beforehand because you think no one's going to like me. I shouldn't be there. I'm not good enough. I don't feel like that now. I feel my confidence is pretty high. I don't think I'll ever be arrogant, but I think that I'm valuable, and I think that I probably can help others who've been in the same situation that I'm in. I don't feel like I shouldn't be here.
I know the feeling. Taking that first step, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
Really, really hard. I think people often think that others find it easier
Yeah.
to put themselves outside the comfort zone and make that step to get involved with something. And I probably felt quite similar to you in quite a few ways. And in some ways, like I don't have responsibility kids, but similar sort of our lives have kind of had parallel circumstances, haven't they?
Definitely relate to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At a similar sort of time, like during lockdown and making really good life decisions.
Yes.
But it's also having had the community around us
Yeah.
that's definitely, from my perspective, helped with that sense of perspective, having got that sort of sense of value and purpose, and also just knowing you've got that support,
Yeah.
but the support in an authentic and a right way.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, like looking at like your journey, and like I said at the start, you are a role model to me. It's been that level of resilience that you've had so many plates spinning with like your professional life, and the actual level of responsibility that you do have, like your family life as well, and your athletic life. Even though you've had all of those things going on and so many plates spinning, I mean, it might not feel like it, but you look on the surface, like you just keep everything really, really balanced. But you've also never like deprioritize, say, like the athletic piece, when it would probably be so easy to. Even though you've had all of those things going on, like you've had like moving, balancing your work life, like you said, recently you've become a nan as well. Then we've got another nickname for that, we'll come on to that at a later date. All of those things, and you've never dropped a plate for anyone that I can see. Like,
I don't think so, but I have probably overcommitted at times, or not overcommitted, but there were times earlier in the year where I was struggling with all of the things that were going on, because I think, and I know from talking to Lauren and to Tom, that they I think they probably recognised that I was suffering with some anxiety around everything, and that anxiety was affecting all aspects of my life. And I think if they hadn't gently approached it the way they did, so I was going through a divorce, I was buying a house, I was trying to train for an Ironman, and then my daughter was having a baby, so they're quite big life changes. And I think if from talking to Lauren and to Tom, if they hadn't gently teased out of me that I probably did have some anxiety, if they'd just said, I think you've got anxiety, I'd have said, no, I haven't. There's nothing wrong with me, because I did kind of look like everything was okay from the outside. But I think having gone through that and gone, actually, yeah, I do suffer from anxiety, and it is having an impact on my life. That has been like completely life-changing for me. Recognising that I was struggling was a massive turning point.
And what's been the impact of that, and how, like, so you've gone through that process of recognising it, how has a sport helped with that, or what's the impact on your life, or how that process you've taken, I guess, from that sort of acknowledgement phase through to where you are now?
It's definitely changed. So probably the last 6 months, it's changed everything. So not just sport, but my life. So I would I get anxious before races, really bad anxiety. Like a week before a race, I'd start having palpitations and then not sleep, and I get asthma, and my asthma would play up, and then the race wouldn't go well because I'd start a race completely exhausted. And then before tough sessions, I wouldn't sleep. I'd go over and over and over and over things in my head. And I think when I realised, when I was like, had the aha moment, oh my God, I actually do have anxiety and it's affecting me. And I developed permanent heart palpitations at this point. So I was, thankfully they were fine, there was nothing serious. But I thought, how ridiculous is it that I'm getting myself so het up about something that is supposed to be something that I enjoy, that I'm actually making myself ill. And from that point, I think everything started to change. I just decided not to do it anymore, and I have some coping mechanisms. So when I ruminate and I go over and over and over things, I sing One Man Meant to Mow in my head.
I love it.
And I keep singing that over and over again, and then I stop doing that. But other than that, I just decided that that this was a hobby, and that I still get nervous, but it's an appropriate level of anxiety now, not that ridiculous level which was making me ill. So.
And do you think it's been that, because you've had like a beyond exceptional year, haven't you? And you think that's been the turning point with that?
100%, absolutely. Anxiety, kind of managing that and recognising that, and then intensity management, because the feelings I had around anxiety, like not being able to breathe, feels exactly the same as when you go too hard. So like if you run too hard, your heart rate spikes and you can't breathe, and so dealing with the anxiety and then intensity management has just changed everything.
Do you think the two are interlinked?
100%, I think so.
And do you think that was kind of chasing validation through the training to kind of calm the anxiety down, or?
Well, I remember kind of talking about your slow runs need to be slower. They need to be slower, Michelle. Slower. For fuck's sake, slower. And I'd go out and I'd look at my watch, and if it had a 6 in it, and God forbid there was a 7 minute per K, like I can't run that slow. It's too slow. And then I was like, well, just run slower. What's wrong with you? There was definitely some ego in there that I didn't really realise I had.
And so I'm really intrigued about your Ironman Lanzarote prep.
Yeah.
Because it was actually fascinating to watch this. It probably links with exactly what you've just said as well around that, because how long before the race date did you decide to enter?
I actually entered 3 weeks before.
So 3 weeks before Ironman Lanzarote, you made the decision to enter.
Yeah.
And can you chat us through the process you followed to actually make that decision about whether you should or shouldn't enter, and how you went about that?
I will, but I can't take credit for it all, because it's obviously it was a joint discussion with Lauren.
Teamwork.
And so I decided last year that I wanted to do an Ironman, because I think some of the prep for some of the 70.3, there was some indication that I actually performed better at longer distance. I could kind of go longer and recover. I recovered okay. So I thought I really want to do an Ironman, and then I was looking at all of the different Ironman races, but there is only one to do really. With everyone else is going to be in Lanzarote, and why would you go somewhere else where there's no one there from Passion Fit? So I decided if I was going to do an Ironman, I was going to do Lanzarote, and then I was like, but you're going through a divorce, you're buying a house, you're going to be a nanny, and can you prepare for an Ironman without dropping any of those balls, but also without actually ending up making yourself ill? So we kind of decided that I would just train for an Ironman and decide at some point that I was going to do it. And the training went better than I ever expected. So I think some of the big sessions, once I got that kind of anxiety piece out of the way, and I switched my brain off, so instead of thinking, oh my God, I've got to cycle for 5 hours on Saturday, how on earth am I going to do that? I'm going to end up with a flat tyre 20 miles away from home, and I'm going to starve to death because I won't be able to get back. And that stupid, So once I remember my mantra became "Don't think, just do" from Top Gun.
I know that. I have that.
I do. I was like, don't think, just do. Get on your bike and just.
I think I've written that in my feedback this week.
Have you?
Yeah.
You stole that from me.
I actually saw it from Top Gun. That was my mantra for Swansea 7.3 in 2022.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I was late to the party on this.
Yeah, exactly. Taking that. Go on then. So don't think, just do was the mantra.
Yeah, so I was going out and I was doing, 5-hour bike ride, and then I think the big kind of one where I think everybody was like, whoa, I did a big brick session on the metric. I think I did a metric day when everyone was in Lanzarote and I was here.
Yeah.
And I felt great, and I think I negative split the run at the end of it, which I've never ever been able to do before. And that was basically how the training went. It went like that all the way through. I recovered pretty well. I loved the volume. I switched my head off, and yeah.
Didn't think, just did.
Yeah.
And then also, because you you came out to Lanzarote as well, because you still hadn't made the decision, even though after that metric had gone well, you still hadn't made that decision, had you? So what was the next step that you took then to kind of really, really understand and test the water a little bit more?
I changed my bike as well because
Yes.
the bike I was riding on, I didn't feel safe riding. I just didn't. So I changed the bike, and I wanted to wait for the bike to come before I went out to Lanzarote to try the bike course. So I think the bike came a week before, and I basically built the bike, took it apart, put it in the bike box, and then went to Lanzarote for a long weekend, and cycled the bike course and thought, yeah, this is alright, I can do this.
And then, so that was kind of
That's kind of
Was that the
I think I
moment?
can sign up now.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool, because so many people go into it thinking, right, I'm going to sign up for an Ironman
Mm.
and I'm going to chase that deadline, whereas you've gone for the opposite of, I'm just going to wait until I know I'm ready and train to a process,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
then I'll kind of wait and see where that goes, rather than, how do you think you might have felt if you'd have gone for the reverse? So you said, right, I'm going to do Lanzarote, give myself X amount of time to prepare, I'm going to enter now. Do you think it would have necessarily, I don't know, would it have felt any different? Or when you've done that before, has it felt any different?
I've definitely done races I've not been ready for. I think most of the races that I've done in the past I wasn't ready for. But I was okay with not doing Lanzarote this year, because I thought I'm still going to go anyway. I'm just going to watch everyone else race and be on support crew, and I'll at least know what training for an Ironman is like and how I respond to it. So yeah, I was fine either way, to be honest.
And how did the day go?
It was good. It was really good. It was harder than I expected, and it was harder than Nice, definitely. I had some kind of stomach cramps at the start of the run, which but I mean it was fine. I just worked through them. But other than that, everything went pretty much to plan. Yeah, it was a good day. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you even smiled a bit, I think.
Did I?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so following Ironman Lanzarote, you were sensibly almost straight back to it, weren't you?
Yeah.
With like enough recovery time, you then made the decision to go and race at Swansea 70.3. So what was kind of the reason for wanting to go and have a crack at Swansea 70.3?
Well, I actually signed up for Swansea in February because I thought, I didn't really think I'd make it to Lanzarote. So I'd already signed up for Swansea because I knew others were doing it, and I loved that race in 2022.
It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I love the bike course, love the swim. And so I signed up for it. When I came back, I had almost 2 full weeks of rest after Lanza. And then when I started training again, everything sort of came back, and I didn't have any areas of concern. My recovery metrics were all good. My mindset was pretty positive, which is always a good sign, because if I'm really tired, then I want to give up triathlon. I'm like, I never ever want to do triathlon again. I don't know what I'm thinking, and I didn't feel like that. I felt pretty good, and training was going well. So I thought, well, it's going to be a great passion fit day. I'll go and do Swansea and just enjoy it.
And how did Swansea go then?
Swansea was my favourite day, I think, for a long time, because I kind of had in my mind what a good day would look like, and it would be probably about a 36-minute swim, and then on the bike I really wanted to kind of push over the hills but within myself. And then I've never managed to run a 70.3 run without stopping, and so that was like a dream day, being able to do that, to the point where when I finished, I didn't ask what my time was. I didn't look at my watch time, I didn't look at my race position for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then when I looked, I was like, oh crikey, I could get a slot to Nice.
And then the Eureka moment. So with Swansea, so you say it's like probably up there with one of the best ever races that you've executed?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
And how did you kind of assess and evaluate that then against like other races you've done previously, and And with that information, kind of what made you the decision then to take the niece slot?
So other races I've done previously have gone pretty well up to the bike point, but because of the way I got myself in such a state before the race, by the time I get to the run, my heart rate would be max before I'd even started. So I think the most I'd ever run was probably about 4 miles, and that was actually at Swansea 2022. But those 4 miles, my heart rate was in at maximum. So I was, in the red basically. Whereas Swansea, I was able to pretty much replicate what I was seeing in training. So I was having good training days, and and I was able to negative split the run, and although I finished feeling like I'd given it my all,
You were in control of the race.
Yeah.
And that's like the first time that's
Ever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, the last 2K, I was like hanging off for dear life.
Yeah, like right on the river.
Which I imagine that's how it should feel. But,
Yeah.
that's the first time I've ever done that.
But knowing you had it in that 2K, like being on the river, but knowing I've got this.
I'm not sure if I
Follow
fully knew that.
Maybe. That
I
maybe.
still had it. I still got to the line, and whereas other times I get to the finish line and be like, well, that was shit. Like, I need to sign up for another race now because I'm going to have to do it all again but better.
And so with that race almost being like that sort of perfect race execution, how did you then make the decision about Nice? Because I guess it would be almost tempting to go the other way of thinking, well, this has gone so well, I almost don't want to do another race because of that. But what was the kind of thought process behind taking the Nice slot then?
Because it was, I didn't have to make a decision on the day, so I had about 2 weeks to make the decision after Swansea, and my thought process was, rightly or wrongly, I've had the best year that I've had for so long. Why would I not finish it with a World Championship race and almost reward myself, that just go and enjoy it, enjoy the experience. I love triathlon. To be part of a women's race, given kind of the year I'd had, it just seemed fitting to go. And so my intention was to, because it was so close to Swansea, was to just go and enjoy it as opposed to go and kind of deliver what I could deliver. So, but I that isn't really what I'm about. So we kind of built back up the volume. I think I had a good week or so off after Swansea as well. Yeah. Maybe even 2 weeks. Built the volume back up and everything looked good. And when I eventually got to Nice, I didn't want to just go and enjoy the day. I wanted to go and see what was possible for me on the day.
And what did that look like for you then? How did you go about that sort of goal setting process for Nice?
Well, I knew I had all of the data from training. I had the data from Lanzarote, data from Swansea. I knew my intensity zones, what I could work at, my heart rate zones, and I would have guessed that I would have done a 1:14 swim, a 7:30 bike, and a 5-hour run. That was like, if I'm going to have my best day, that's what the outcome will be. That'll be those times. And I was 5 minutes out on the bike and 10 minutes quicker on the run. So it was pretty close to what I...
And a little bit quicker on the swim.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah,
a bit quicker on the swim.
So about 1:13 I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so that's like so super fine margin. So you thought I could go and deliver a 1:14, like sort of what was it?
7.5 hours.
7.5 hours on the bike, and then 5 hours on the run. So you're pretty much give or take bang on, but over the total race.
If I have my best day.
If you have a best day, yeah. So that's really fascinating because a lot of people turn up to races, and I don't know, I've been in this boat, you might have been in this boat, where you turn up and then you look at the information afterwards, but you had no idea whether that was going to be, like, or you've had ideas in your head beforehand of what you're going to go and do, and then it's like that Instagram versus reality movement on your race. So that confidence level to know that you had that, like, have you developed that over time, do you think, or has that been something that you've kind of always been pretty astute with?
I think it's because I didn't have consistency in my run, I could probably predict my swim and bike times. My swim's always been pretty consistent, I think, from working with Passion Fit. I mean, initially I had a really big jump in my swim times, but they are gradually getting quicker, but they're pretty consistent. And my bike times I probably could predict, but my runs were all over the place. I mean, it really just depended on how much walking I did. So, I couldn't have predicted run times.
So how did your race day go? Like, what was the experience like, and how did you kind of, because you said this is the one that you went for and rolled the dice a little bit to see what was in the locker. How did you kind of make that decision? Like, how do you look back and think about the race right now?
It went really well.
You always look like you still can't believe it.
Like, I can't believe it. I can't believe that I went to the first thing I can't believe is that I went there and I was able to control my anxiety and my emotions surrounded by so much hype. But I was just like, I know what I'm going to do on Sunday. I'm going to go and I'm going to swim this, I'm going to bike this, and I just had like uber focus I've never had before. It was weird. I could almost push all of the drama aside, and I just knew. But I mean, you get days, don't you? I remember, because on the swim went exactly as I expected. I had a plan to get on people's feet that were, either my speed or faster, and I did that. And then got on the bike, and I from doing the full gas course, I knew exactly what I was going to do on the hill, and it just did exactly what I planned. I knew I was going to finish one bottle of nutrition when I got to the top, and then swap them out, which I managed to do.
Yes.
And basically I knew from that doing the full gas course what the course was like, and exactly at what points I needed to have my nutrition and what output I was going to deliver at each phase, and other than the downhill, which was an unknown. It all went to plan, apart from getting a stitch with 2 hours to go on the bike.
Aww.
Which I thought, it can't possibly last that long. They don't last that long.
It lasts that long?
It lasted until the last hour of the run.
Aww.
But because I'd had issues in Lanzarote, I was like, if I'm not dying, then I need to be running, because it's a stitch at the end of the day, and it's a stitch. It's not going to get any worse. It's not going to get any better. Just keep moving forward.
Just deal with it.
Yeah. And I kept thinking, if I keep going, I'm going to get under 5 hours on my run, and it just kept me moving forward.
I think earlier you said as well, like, if it had been 112 miles of uphill,
I loved it.
Super happy.
Yeah, because I was just ticked over for 100. Yeah, I'd been happy, I think.
The other thing you said as well was how much you enjoyed the descents.
Yeah, I loved it.
And you were riding a TT bike, weren't you, as well,
Yeah.
which you recently bought. And before you started, have you always been quite confident on the bike? Because when you think about the first sprint triathlon on hybrid compared to now, how do you think you kind of developed that level of confidence on the bike? Or have you just always been a bit calm,
I think I'm a little bit. If I go out on the roads in a normal day, I'm super sensible. I don't think the roads are a place to race. But on race day, especially on a closed road, then I don't really have much fear. But I have more confidence now in my bike skills than I probably did a few years ago. Yeah, so I wasn't worried. I was having a great day.
And do you think just because when you got to that all of these races, there's been quite a common theme. You knew you were ready.
Yeah, I knew I was ready.
And you just seem to have been able to then, because you said about when you're at Nice in particular, you're able to just kind of shut off, ignore the hype, ignore all of those other things, enjoy the experience, so not be totally void to what's going on and the privilege of racing at a world championship event, but also be able to be really clear on your journey, your process, and what you're going to do. And do you think that's been a lot partly due to how you prepared and just being so certain in what you can go and do, or you seem to be very I've got to the start line and I am ready?
Yeah, no, I think this year, from February this year, I think I've delivered consistently in all of my training. So I knew. Now I'm getting to the point where I think, well, could I push a bit more? I'm ready to start experimenting you know, now I know what my zones are, but can I push outside of them a little bit? And some of my goals around over the off season, which I'll discuss with Lauren, will be around how hard can I go on the bike and still run off it and things like that. But yeah, I think I've been so consistent in training that I just had that confidence that I knew.
And I believe your daughter was out there as well to watch.
Yeah,
How cool was that?
it was really cool. But I had like, even now I had to just keep it in. When I'd see my grandson on the course with his little Ironman t-shirt, it was like, just keep it in until the finish line.
Is that for a highlight of the year?
Yeah, definitely. The fact that they were there, like, you know, it's a long day, and he's 6 months old, and yeah, I'd see them on every lap. It just kept me going. It was great.
So cool. And with juggling, like, a couple more questions, nearly done. Like full distance training, then with your job and everything, how have you managed to balance this? Because you've done 2 full distances this year, plus Swansea 7.3, and also you did the relay of Vitruvian on the bike leg. So it's a lot, like it's a decent amount of racing.
Mm-hmm.
How have you kind of managed to keep everything, all those parts of your life complementing each other?
A lot of self-care, not kind of trying to, basically just being a bit kind to myself, making sure I get to bed early. I've changed kind of my eating habits and making sure that when I'm eating food, it's good food, and you know, I'm looking after myself. A lot of when I was deep in kind of Ironman training, I didn't do much else other than go to work and train, because I just didn't have the capacity to take on anymore. So I just kind of watch films at the weekend and lie around, try and recover. It's not something I'd want to do all year round, to be honest, but I think for kind of a short, it's manageable, I think, for an Ironman. The plan was never to do 2 back to back.
But you're in a position where you built such good, consistent baseline training that you gave yourself the opportunity to.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the key differences. So then in terms of thinking about like 2025 and where you go from here, like how do you think about like your journey and what the next sort of phase essentially could look like for you?
I haven't really thought about races or anything for next year. I've thought about goals in the off season. I'd like to build some more muscle, reduce my body
I can
fat.
do 2 chin-ups now.
Can you?
Yeah.
2?
Yeah, I can do 3 already.
There are some small goals I've thought of. We talked about I recently did 6 100s off 145, so there is a goal in there to do a full threshold set off 145. I'd like to experiment how hard I can go on the bike and still and be able to run off and not die, and then some goals around building on my run. That's about as far as I've thought, but I've not put any meat around those. I've not thought of any races for next year. I just see what everyone else is doing and talk to Lauren and
So very, very process focused off season. And then when you think about it, so when you started doing the Cheltenham Sprint 2012, did you think that you'd be sitting here today having done what you've done?
No. I don't think there was any point in this year that I believed half what I've done. Like even now, I just I have to keep looking at photographs to realise that it actually happened. It's it's mind blowing. I mean, yeah, it is mind blowing.
What would you say to your past self? Like if you were to be able to go back and give yourself some words of advice, what would you go back and say to that version of you back then?
Well, I'd have done things differently. I would have definitely said, get a coach, get a coach that you trust, that you can, share your deep, dark moments with, that can bring out the best in you. Find a community, learn about the sport. Don't just get swept away and sign up for triathlons just to get a medal and, and for it not to go well, not to feel good, and then go on to the next triathlon, and just don't do that. Just take the time to learn about the sport and to learn about yourself. That's what I would have said to myself, because look how long I wasted.
But look also how much you've achieved.
Yeah, it's been a good year. It's been fun.
Well, good years, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap up this podcast then, so I started off at the start of this episode by saying that you are my role model, and I'll start crying in a sec. I always cry. And I hope the listeners and viewers of this will understand exactly why, and I'm sure your journey for so many reasons will resonate with so many out there. And I just kind of wanted to finish with, you've spoken a lot about how you've totally transformed, like, as a person, and changed, like, in terms of your feelings of, like, self-worth, like, value, levels of confidence. You said that you had no, like, achieving what you've achieved and coming back from the Ironman World Championships, even though it hasn't sunk in now. And also, when you're talking about your goals for next year, you're like there thinking, right, okay, I'm ready, I'm going to go see what more I've got now. And your journey has been, like, flipping beyond anything to watch. And there's going to be so many who are going to be in that sort of similar position to you, like maybe thinking about starting out a bit tentative about whether they should or shouldn't take that first step, worried about potential barriers there are going to be, and feeling that same level of, like, low levels of confidence like you did at the start. What would you kind of say to that person to help, like, encourage them to make that decision?
I think as difficult as making that first step is, the rewards are huge, and it's probably not as difficult as it feels. And some of the changes that I've made and some of the progress I've made, it's been really simple, small changes that have had a huge impact. And that feeling of being enough, I think anybody should be able to feel that. I don't think people should feel like they're not enough. And so I would say don't hold back. Just get in touch, and you can start making changes that are for the better.